prevent the screen for going into a screensaver mode or something like that. I'm not sure it does deploy here. Maybe it is. And we notice a corner case where actually the wake lock is released by the operating system. And now I'm working on a fix in order to re-request the wake lock. And I think that's all from me.
Thank you, Christo. Jaya, I don't believe we've updated the community on the changes that you recently did on peer-to-peer connections. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had P2P suppressed for Firefox and Safari because we had to do things differently. And then back when we tested the P2P directly between browsers, we noticed some issues with the bandwidth estimates, and the uplink, the send bandwidth was usually low. So, but I think all those issues have been resolved, and then we made some fixes, and now P2P across browsers should be enabled. And yeah, and I'm also working on the new codec selection logic. Like since we had only two codecs to choose from, VP8 and VP9, we had the config setting for setting a preferred codec. But now with the introduction of AV1, like the support for AV1 is still, we are still working on introducing support for AV1. So, but on the bridge side, but on the client side, now we could actually pass a codec list in the preference order that we want, and then the endpoints should automatically calculate the intersection when new users join and leave, and then it should change the codecs accordingly. So this is work in progress and should land in like a couple of weeks. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. And Jonathan, do you want to talk a little bit about the remaining stuff on AV1?
Yeah, AV1 I think is pretty close to code complete. The one feature, it's interaction with the SRC rewriting code that needs to be handled. After that, it should be code complete, and I just need to do a bunch of testing to make sure it's correct.
And that's on the bridge side?
That's on the bridge side, yeah.
That is great.
We'll need to, as Jaya said, there needs to be some client side work, but it sounds like she's got that well in hand.
Yeah, I'm personally really looking forward to that. The switch from VP8 to VP9 led to noticeable quality improvements. I'm curious if anyone here on the community is also holding their breath for AV1 support, or are you guys just whenever it comes, we're happy? Maybe people need a few.
Could you go into detail about what your question is?
Do you care about AV1 support?
For those that are not familiar with AV1, would you mind elaborating?
Okay, though that does answer the question. If you're not familiar, then I guess you don't. You're not really holding your breath. It's the latest codec that is, meant for primarily. I don't know if it's primarily, but it's the next de facto standard. I don't know what the right words are for real-time communication with video and WebRTC. The next video codec. WebRTC started pretty much with VP8 as the de facto standard. With time, more and more people switched to VP9. I still think there are a few major apps that use VP8, but VP9 has taken over. The change being less bits on the wire for the same quality, or more or higher quality for the same bits. And now AV1 is essentially the next step in that trend.
That sounds like that will help with expanding this out to 10,000 current users.
Not really, no. It's not one of the major problems that needs to be solved for large conferences, because it's orthogonal, to put it that way. You know, it might let you, for any kind of conference, just have higher quality. And also higher CPU utilization. That's always a thing with new codecs. I see there's a hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do we know if like Safari plan to support it, or where is the support so far? Because that's the main question, I guess, as well. Like the browser support and everything, especially on iOS.
Chrome is supporting it, which means that presumably means the Edge support it soon. Apple never announces anything before they do it. So as far as I know, there's been no announcement from Apple about AV1 support. But
I do think they became part of the Open Media Alliance, though, didn't they? So
I think they did, yes. But often their WebRTC support is
okay.
Yeah, but so I think, and the work that Jay is doing will make sure that we do all the proper negotiation, such that we will support AV1 when everybody in the call supports it, and we'll fall back cleanly to the best possible alternative if we fit it.
Nice. And just a quick question on AV1, because I don't really know it very well. Is it like a big improvement for video or for audio or for both?
It's video. It's video.
It's video mainly, right?
It's a video codec, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's video code.
So it's remaining like with Opus. So you use like AV1 in completion with Opus, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And
we have another hand.
I don't see who that is, though.
Marcel.
Marcel, you have your hand raised. Did you want to ask anything? I guess not. All right. Well, opening the floor for the community, and if you have any, go ahead.
Okay. Now it's unmuted. Well, the question is about AV1 actually. Comparing AV1 and VP9, which one is better for low CPU and low bandwidth?
So it's a trade-off. So VP9 will use more bandwidth and less CPU, and AV1 is the other way around. And VP8, even more so, less CPU, even more bandwidth. So basically, as time goes on, they develop codecs that are better at encoding video, but they take more CPU to do it. So that's the trade-off you get.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the short answer is none, I guess. Neither of them. There's another hand raised from Wayne.
Yeah. I just wanted to put in my vote for keeping VP8 at least as an option. VP9 uses significantly more CPU. It raises the core temperature of the CPU a lot. And VP8, most devices have hardware support for VP8, but not VP9 or AV1. AV1 is a lot of times has to be done in software, and it requires a lot of processing power to do that.
So just a quick note here. First of all, we're not at all planning to discontinue support for VP8, neither code-wise nor functionality-wise. So VP8 will be there, and you will be able to use it. That said, we are using software encoders and decoders even for VP8. As far as I know, there's only a few. I mean, only some phones have the hardware support for VP8 decoding.
VP9.
I think.
Do you mean VP9?
VP8. I mean VP8. Like, for example, no iPhone would ever have this.
Okay.
And not all Android phones have it. That's for decoding. And I think for encoding, it's even more problematic. because even when you do support, even if we do have hardware support for VP9 and VP8 encoding for anything like that, it rarely comes with things like simulcast or scalable video coding, which you need for conferencing, which essentially means that the heaviest part of video encoding you have to do in software anyway. Sorry, the heaviest part of a codec, the encoding, you have to do in software anyway. And again, I'm not sure that even when the decoders are there, we'd have to check with Sue. I'm not sure that we're using it. And I don't know whether even the browser on a phone is using that for WebRTC components. I'm not convinced that it does.
So I mean, certainly we'll have the ability to configure it. And one other thing we're planning to support, because as Emil said, the encoding is the heaviest part. We're planning to have support asymmetric in a call such that endpoints with low CPU can encode VP8, and endpoints with the, which have like a powerful laptop or whatever can encode AV1 or VP9, and everybody can decode everything. That's certainly one of the things we're planning on looking at.
My laptop, I can do VP9, AV1. However, the core temperatures go up to 85 degrees C. That's just not a good.
So certainly, it's still got to be possible on your own installations to configure it however you want, and I think it may even be possible to set optional parameters to set your own preferences. Though
but if you're using VP9 then on your computer, and I'm watching your image, then I will have to decode that VP9 on mine.
Yeah, but the thing that raises your car temperature to 25 degrees is mostly the encoding. It's not the decoding. So as long as you're not encoding VP9, you're consuming much less resources.
Okay, that's not what I found. I've actually found if I just sit there and watch, I've got my video turned off and I'm watching everybody. And if everybody happens to be in VP9, then the core temperatures go way up. If everybody's in VP, core temperatures are much, much lower. Just saying.
I'm curious if you have any test results report or something like that you have shared, that you want to share. That would be certainly curious, because the difference in decoding that we've observed isn't as dramatic.
Well, maybe because you've got the built in as hardware decoder.
We don't use those. They're not used.
Okay.
So anyways, as Jonathan said, we don't really have to agree on this, because you'll be able to configure it however you want to.
Okay. Is that by a command line switch, or will that be a switch inside? How will that be configured?
Well, certainly you would be able to configure it on your installation. I think it's in config.js. Is that correct, Jaya?
Yeah, it's in config.js under video quality. And one other point that I wanted to add here is that with the new codec selection mechanism, you'll be able to actually specify codec preferences differently for the browsers and for the mobile endpoints. Like, we'll be adding a different section for mobile endpoints, like mobile browsers and the React Native SDK based endpoints. You could actually configure them differently.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're most welcome. Any other questions out there?
Yes, I have my hand up. We are working with Start9, that's START, Start9, which is a server open source project. And I'd like to call for a meeting in the call next Monday at the exact same time. What we'd like to do is put together a very simple install package to install Jitsi Meet on the Start9 servers that are going to be distributed to the Start9 user community. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
Sure. The only thing being that there's no community call next Monday. It'll have to be the Monday after, but you guys are most welcome to stop by and maybe prepare a 5-minute explanation of what Start9 is.
It's just basically an open source server community. And why I was saying what I was saying about next Monday is I'm not talking about intruding on what you are doing with your recorded calls every Monday, because I know that you do it every other Monday. So I thought I would call for a meeting in a Monday between what you're doing, so we can, freely talk about the
I got you. But first of all, you wouldn't be intruding. Would be very happy to have you in a community call, and it's easier to do it that way because everyone has it on their agenda. Whether or not this same slot next Monday works, if you want, we can just, keep a slot at the end of the next community call, and we can have the meeting there. And again, I'd love to know a little bit more about what Start 9 is. I understand it's a server community, but I guess there's more to it than that. So if you guys want to talk about it for 5 minutes, that would be great. And if in 2 weeks community call doesn't work, then I'd have to ask you to send me an email so that we can figure out some other time.
Sure. I don't think Jesse is here. Jesse's my technical contact in the start. It's start9.com. START, the number 9.com will tell you. It's basically trying to give people their own sovereignty in their server cloud platform instead of relying on, Amazon or the other services. And I'm just now starting to work with them. And I talked with Jesse extensively. And he said that if we could get Jitsi Meet as a simple install for people that are not technical. And I said that I would love to work on that project.
So, repeating my question, does community call in 2 weeks work? Or would you like to schedule something else, in which case I'd ask you to send me an email?
Sure. Jesse's not on the line. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. In 2 weeks, we'll come back. I'll bring the Start 9 technical, and we'll see what we can get accomplished.
All right. And I'd still appreciate a 5-minute presentation of the details of Start 9.
I'm not the person to do that. Jesse's not here, so I'll try to schedule that as well.
If possible, in order for it to be more productive of a call and understand what the constraints are and what work there is to do and what problems have to be solved, I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So
Okay.
I'll try to arrange that for at the end of the meeting in 2 weeks.
That's correct. All right. All right. Any other questions? Stan, you have your hand raised. Stan Reichardt. Stan Reichardt, you're muted.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I use the app image to bring up Jitsi, and I note on some of my different machines, it shows the new version that comes up, and others. I find that very helpful, and because sometimes I have to go back and reinstall the app image. In the past, I was concerned with the Jitsi on. We had temporarily been running a private installation of Jitsi, and it didn't present a version number of any kind to people coming in. And I was wondering, is there a way to see what version is released, especially on not only the private instances of installed Jitsi, but the public installation of jit.si? Or is that something that just can't be done?
I'm not sure what you mean by app image, actually. Is that the Docker image? Is that what you mean?
The Electron.
Electron, yeah.
All right. If that one shows you a version, it's likely the Electron version and not the Jitsi version.
Right. I understand that, but I'm wondering if there's a way to comparably show the version of Jitsi that has been installed on.
You can. I think we print that in the debug logs in the console. So if you're not too uncomfortable asking your users to open that and filtering for a specific string, I think it should show up there. Maybe someone here can remind me what you need to filter for.
Version.
Version, all right. So if you open your console and you just filter for version, you should see it in there.
Thank you. That answers my question all the way around. Thank you very much.
Very happy to hear that. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. See you in 2 weeks, and hopefully you're all passing a great summer. Bye-bye. Oh, Merso, got another question?
Yeah, I was not expecting the end of the meeting was so quick. So the question is about the visitor support. What is new with the new release? So can we use visitor right now with this release?
Damien, I think you might want to take this one.
Yeah. We're working on it. There is some UI stuff to be polished, but it's usable. You can open the. I'll send the link here in the chat with quick instructions how to install it, but it's mostly a manual process. There is nothing automated, and yeah, it's usable. We're currently testing and polishing stuff around it.
I should say, Marcel, that usable is probably exactly the right word. Not much more than that, because we haven't actually had it in production anywhere at all, right? So if it works, it's demoable, sort of, kind of. You could use it to see it works and then uncover kinks here and there. But keep in mind that we too are still in the process of polishing, as Damien said, and so
Okay.
there is polishing to be done. So if you play with it, we're very happy to hear what you stumble upon.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind before you actually invite 10,000 people somewhere that
Yeah,
hasn't been done so far.
Yeah, that was the next question. Did you ever test the new setup with 10,000 viewers, let's say, or visitors?
We have done multiple tests with 10,000 connections. They have all been staged tests, artificial tests. None of them. We haven't done any tests with, a real, actual meeting with 10,000 real people trying to get something done.
Well, if backend handled 10,000 subscribers and visitors, then it really means something. I mean, that it seems that was a good test.
There were 10,000 simulated participants receiving video. Yes, on the same conference. Just to be very clear, we've had 10,000 people on the service for years, but 10,000 people in the same conference. The servers were supporting 10,000.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
You're welcome. All right. Ending for real. Enjoy.